Hello there, this is Mark Summers again from Summers Technical Services. We're going to get off of doing hand-drawn drawings and move on to CAD. So we're going to use AutoCAD for the first time today. Normally I spend about a week teaching people how to use AutoCAD. We're going to squeeze that down to a single session here. And so we're not going to be able to learn all the ins and outs, but at least we'll get enough information to get started and be able to do some orthographic views on 2D AutoCAD drawing. So here is our drawing we've done hand drawings of. We're going to do the same thing. We're going to make orthographic front, side, and top views of this same part using AutoCAD, drawn at scale of 1 to 1. And along the way we'll learn a handful of commands in AutoCAD to be able to get us started with using CAD for the first time. So let's get started. So here is AutoCAD launched, and first thing we need to do is to get our template set up. And so you don't want to, when you start a new part, a new model, new drawing, you don't want to open up something. You want to say File New. And when you go File New, AutoCAD is going to point you to this folder that has some canned templates that came with AutoCAD. And short of having anything else, you probably would want to use this AutoCAD drawing template. But I've got much nicer templates to start with. And so let's drop those and use the new ones I gave you in class today. So to change the pointer to point to the correct location for the templates, you're going to, guess what, to start a new file to get the menus open. So I'll just choose that canned template. And now we're going to go hit the big A here and hit Options. And we're going to find the option to locate, where is it? Template settings, maybe? Drawing template file locations. So this is where we were just pointed to when we went File New. So we're going to get rid of this one and go browse and find a new one. And the new one is going to be in your documents folder, in your class documents. And I've got mine in here somewhere. My documents, Texas State. And I've got a folder for our class. And I've got a folder for templates. So now that's replaced the old one. And so I'll say Apply, OK. Now when I say File New, it's going to point to our templates. I've got some for Inventor and SolidWorks, so I want to go inside of AutoCAD. I've got a B-size template and a D-size template. In this case, we're going to use a B-size template. And we'll hit Open, and now I've got an empty template to start with. All right, so let's see what's next on the hit parade here. So that takes care of slide number 1. So we're going to be working from this Home tab. And I've got lots of commands up here, and we're only going to be using for this first session here, these first 2 tabs here. We're going to be looking with Draw. We're going to draw some entities with these buttons, and we can modify entities that we draw with these buttons. The other thing you get with this template is you get pre-configured layers. These are layers, and when you draw anything in AutoCAD, it goes on a specific layer. And if you don't choose a layer, the default layer is layer 0. And when you draw your entities, you're going to choose the layer to make active before you draw anything, so everything you draw goes in that layer. So we want our object lines, it's called depart layer. They're all going to go in the depart layer. I guess that stands for default or detail part. Hidden lines are going to go in the hidden line layer. Center lines are going to go in the center line layer. And dimensions are going to go in the dimension layer. And it's got some other ones in here we'll use later. All right, so I want to draw some object lines, so I'm going to turn on my depart layer, and I'm going to draw that front view. So I'm going to go to the line. I'm going to click somewhere on the screen, and right now I've got turned on an ortho button. These buttons down here we'll talk about in a minute. But all these buttons down here can turn on and off functionality that you're going to want to get familiar with. And so this ortho mode is turned on because the button's pushed in, and that gives me horizontal and vertical lines by default. Snaps to horizontal and vertical. and that's what I want, and it's giving me, I can click here, or I can type in a value. So that's 2.5 inches wide. I can go up, and I'm not clicking, I'm typing in the value, 2.5. I'm going to click over here, and I can hover over, if I'm not clicking yet, I'm just hovering over that line, and it gives me a projected point up here. So if I click right there, that gives me a 2.5. And then if I come down here, see that green box? That green box it's set for finding endpoints of lines. And if I get that indicator, I click, and that's the end of that first line I drew. Now I'm still in the line mode, so I'm going to right click, enter to get out of the command. Okay, to make my drawing view, I need to draw some more lines here, obviously. I'm going to take a peek at my picture, and so I've got a line that's 1 inch up from the bottom for that edge, and so I could draw another line, or I could use this offset button. So if I use the offset button, read the command line. It says specify offset distance, so I'm going to type in 1, drawing it 1 to 1, 1, enter. It says select the object to offset, and click the side you want to offset it, and there it is. So this line is 1 inch up from that line. I can do the same thing. I can offset these lines by 1/2 inch. And so if I go back to offset, or I can right click and whoops, I'm gonna hit the offset button. And now it's asking for the offset distance. It's defaulting to 1 because that's what I chose the last time I used this command. But I want to make it 0.5 this time. Select item to offset, click the side you want it, select the item to offset, click the side you want it, right click, enter to get out of the command. And what else do I need? I need these lines up here at the top. So what I'm going to do is I want to put a center line through the middle of my part. So I'm going to go switch over to center line layer, and I'm going to go to line. And I don't want to start at this endpoint. See how it's finding the endpoints? These are called O snaps, object snaps. And you can set those to have different O snaps turned on and off. If you don't have the O snap you want, if you control right click, you get a list of all the object snaps, the O snaps available. Midpoint is available if I select it, so I'm going to select midpoint. And now look what it does. When I get near the midpoint of that line, it gives me that triangle that indicates it's going to give me a midpoint. So I'm going to click there, and it's on ortho, and I'm going to do another control right click, and I could do another midpoint to grab the midpoint of that top line, or I could do perpendicular. That'll give me that line perpendicular to that line, and see you get a different symbol there. So these O snaps are very powerful. Right click, enter to get out of the command. Now that layer's on the center layer. I want to go change it to depart. I want to offset this line both ways to get this 1/2 inch wide slot at the top. So I'm going to go back to offset, and it says specify offset distance. Well, the total width is 1/2, so I want to go 1/4 each way. So I'll type in 1/4. Select this line, click that way, select that line, click that way. And you'll notice, right click enter to get out of the command. You'll notice that even though I was on depart layer, it made those lines center lines because that was what the original line was. So I'll offset a center line, it's going to give me a line that's in the center layer. And I can fix that easily. I can select that guy, control click, or just select the second one. So I select the first one, select the second one. This is on the center layer, so if I pull this down and change it to depart, now they're on the depart layer, which makes them automatically yellow. All of the entities are colored by layer. I don't change the parameters of the line to make it a specific color. I tell all the lines to take on the color that's assigned by the layer. All right, I'm going to do another offset. I'm going to offset down from the top, 0.5. Right click enter to get out of the command. And now it's time to do a bunch of trimming. And this trim command is awesome. If you pull down the trim command, you can do extend or trim. And so I want to do trim. And what you do is you select the entities that you want to trim to. Right click enter. And then it says read the command line. It says select an object to trim. Well, I want to trim this guy. See how it gives you a preview? I want that trimmed up to there, that trimmed up to there, this trimmed over here, and this trimmed over here. right click enter to get out of the command. So you select what you want to trim to, hit enter, and then select the things you want to trim back to those ones you selected. So that looks good. I need to trim these lines down, so I'm going to right click. I can repeat trim. That's another good use for the right click. You can repeat the last command without having to go up there and click the button again. So I want to trim to this line, right click to enter. I want that to trim, and I want that to trim. Right click enter to get out of the command. So this is looking good. I've got those lines there. Now I'm going to take advantage of something called a grip. When you select these entities, it shows these little blue boxes, and they're called grips. And you can manipulate objects using these grips. And we're going to learn how to do that, and we're going to learn about relative motion. So if I type in I want to go to coordinate 0, 0, it's going to put the entity starting at the global origin. I don't know where the origin is. Probably there it is down here in the corner. See the X and Y? I don't know what the coordinate is that point there, and I don't really care. What I want to do is I want to move the center line. Well, I'm going to leave that where it is right now. Let's get rid of this guy. I'm in depart layer. I want to draw this top edge here to here. Right click enter to get out of the command. Right click repeat line here to here. Right click enter to get out of the command. Now I want to do these chamfers on the edge, and we'll just make these 45 degrees. But I don't want to have to draw those manually. I want to come in here to the fillet command. I could put a radius corner, but if I pull this down, I've got an option for a chamfer. So let's see what that looks like. Hit the chamfer button. Again, read the command line. It's saying select the first line or, and I've got all these options. If I type in an M, it would do multiple. E would be method. T would be trim. You see these blue letters? The blue letters, you can either click on these words, or you can just hit D for distance to invoke that next command. And so I want to do D for distance. And the first distance is going to be 0.5. And the second distance, it defaults to 0.5, so I'm just going to hit enter. And then it says select the first line and select the second line. And it does a chamfer for me automatically. That's pretty cool. Right click, repeat chamfer. All those values are the same. It remembers the values you did the last time. So I still want a 1/2 inch chamfer, so I'm not having to type in the values anymore. I just select that line, right click enter to get out of the command, or escape. All right, what else do I need? I need a circle. So let's make a circle, and we're going to put a circle right here, and it's looking for a radius, and so I'm going to say I'm going to use a calculator. I don't want to calculate 0.75 divided by 2, but if I hit the tick mark, single quote CAL, it'll invoke a little calculator, and I can type in 0.75 divided by 2 for the radius, and there's my 3/4 inch circle. Now I put it here, but it needs to go up a 1/2 inch, so let's use those grips. I'm going to select the entity. I'm going to select that middle grip, and I'm going to type in, I want to move it straight up 0.5 inches. So I'm going to use Shift 2. I'm going to do at. That invokes the relative location. So I want to go at 0. I want to move 0 in the X direction, comma, and that bumps you over to the Y value. Y is going to be 0.5. Enter. So it went over 0, up a 1/2, and now that circle is right where I want it. Now I'm going to pull this center line down so it's just for the center line of this hole here. I want to select this grip, and I want to place it at the quadrant of this circle. And quadrant object snap is not turned on right now, but if I do a control right click, quadrant will give me those 90-degree corners of the circle. So if I invoke quadrant and grab the quadrant, see it's got the diamond shaped? That'll move that grip to that point. And I can do the same thing here. I can grab that grip, control right click, quadrant, and grab that quadrant. Now I want that line, the center line, to extend slightly, top and bottom. And so I'm going to grab this line, get the grips, select that point, and maybe do a at 0, 0.125. Move it up 1/8 of an inch. And then move this one down 1/8 of an inch maybe. Or maybe half of that, maybe at 0, minus 1/16 of an inch. That looks better. and I want to move this one down a 16th to make it like the bottom one. Click the grip, at symbol, 0, minus 0.0625. That looks good. Now I'd like to draw another one horizontally, but I don't want to go through all those steps again. And so I'm going to do a copy rotate on this bad boy. So I want to hit rotate, and I'm going to read the command line. It says select the objects. I'm done selecting the objects, so I hit enter. Specify the base point. The base point is going to be the center of this circle. And I've got my O-snap turned on for center of circle. See how the green circle pops up? That's the center of rotation. It's asking me to rotate it. If I just rotate it, it's not going to leave that one behind. It's going to take what I have and rotate it. But I'm going to choose this copy command, so I can either select copy or I can hit C, enter. I want to click it since I'm already on it. Rotation angle is 90, enter, and then I'm done. So I made a copy of it, left the old one there, flipped it around. So am I done? Do I have all my edges on here? I think I do. All right, so there's view, there's the front view. And now we're going to do some projection lines like we did on our hand-drawn paper one. And I've still got my ortho on. I can turn the ortho off. And now if I draw a line, it's not going to be, it's going to be at whatever angle I have to draw it at. So I'm going to leave these ortho on. While we're down here, let's look at this O-snap button. Here's the O-snap button, and so if I right-click on it, I can turn on these things that I want to have on all the time. Right now, all that's on is endpoint and center. I could turn all of these on, but it gets confusing because it's popping around between all these different options. So if I get to where I'm using quadrant quite a bit, maybe I'll turn that one on so it's coming on automatically. I can always get to any of them by doing the right-click trick in the middle of the command. So maybe I'll turn on quadrant. So I'll get that automatically. So I'm going to turn back on ortho. I'm going to go back. I'm in depart layer still. I'm going to go to line. Endpoint. I'm going to drag this over. Right click enter. Right click repeat line. I want that edge. Right click enter. Right click repeat line. I want that edge. Right click enter. Right click repeat line. That looks like all the edges I need right there. Now I'll do the same thing going up. I want this edge on the top view. This edge. This edge. These are going to turn into my edges of my top view. And I'm just going to replicate these guys up. This is what y'all did on your homework assignment, except you're using a pencil and a paper. And maybe one more. All right, so let's go back to the side view. I'm going to draw the back edge here. I want to click up here, click down here, right click enter. Now I want to do some trim. Trim these lines back to each other. And so I'm going to go to trim. I'm going to select where to trim to, enter when I'm done. Now it's saying select the objects. I could select these all individually, or I've got an option down here. Always look at these options. You got cool options. There's one called fence. What's fence? Well, it's pretty cool. I'm going to say fence. I'm going to click here and drag like a fence across all of them and get all of them at one time. So that's pretty cool. I want to grab this guy, move these grips up. That grip needs to go to that endpoint. That grip, I'm just left click selecting and then moving that over. All right, now I've got to make some more edges. I need to go over at 1.5 inches. I'm going to take advantage of this offset. Again, 1.5 enter. Just read the command line. Here to here, right click enter. Right click to repeat offset. Now I want to go another inch, I think. Yep. Here to here. Right click enter. And maybe I'll run my center line through here. I want to change to the center layer. I want to go line. I want to go here. And I want to take it out the back. Right click enter. Now I want to do some hidden lines for my hole. So I want to go down and change to the hidden layer. And I want to do a line. And I've turned on my quadrant, which was a smart thing to do. There's the quadrant. So you click there. And I want to right click. Control right click, perpendicular. I want to go perpendicular to that back edge. right click enter, right click repeat line, get my quadrant for free, and I'm going to right click, control right click, perpendicular, go back to that back edge. There we go. So this is coming together. Now I want to do some more trimming. Gotta look at my picture over here. I want to trim back to this line. Right click enter. And I want to trim these guys back to that line. Right click enter. And I want to right click repeat trim. I want to trim down to this line. Right click enter. Trim that one down. Right click repeat trim. I want to trim this guy to that guy. Right click to enter. I want to trim those back to here. Alright, and I need another edge. I need another edge for the back side of that face. So I want to offset this line 1/2 inch. Right click enter. And now I'm going to trim the hidden lines back to this edge because that's where the hole stops. Trim that one back and that one back. And actually I screwed up. This line needs to be in the hidden line layer. So I just select it and come up here and say, please put that in the hidden layer. There we go. Now I want to trim back this guy to the midpoint. Control right click, midpoint. Trim him back here. I want to trim this one. I want to move that, select the grip, right click perpendicular, and push that perpendicular to this line here. Now I'm going to do that same 1/16 of an inch move like I did over here. Actually this one, the hole stops right here, so I want this guy, I want this grip to go control right click, midpoint. I want to move him straight back. Could have trimmed it. Where's midpoint? There it is. And now I want to move this over maybe 1/8 of an inch. I want to select the grip, do an at 0.125 in the x direction, comma 0. And I'm going to do a similar thing over here except go in the negative x direction. Select that grip, at symbol, minus 0.125, comma 0. That looks good. Still need to do another trim. I need to trim to this line. Right click to enter and then trim that one back. Am I done? Am I done? I think I'm done. Got all my edges maybe. All right, let's finish up the top view. You should be saving this file. Make sure you save it with your file naming format like we talked about in class. So I want to click here and make a horizontal line. Oops, I'm in the wrong layer. Go to depart, go to line, right click enter, do a trim. Trim to that line, right click enter. I'm going to do the fence again. I love the fence. And we're going to trim this one back, or I'll just do the grips. I'll put that grip right there, and I want to left click, select that grip back to here. Okay, now I need to offset this line 2.5 inches. There's an offset button right here. We've been only living in the draw and the modify button so far. So the offset needs to be 2.5. I want to go from here down to here. Right click enter. Okay, these views are too close together. We need to fix that. So let me do a trim real quick. I want to trim to that line. I got to trim these guys back. Should have done the fence, shouldn't I? Takes too long to do it this way. Next time I'll do the fence. Right click enter to get out of the command. Alright, when you move these views, you cannot move them willy-nilly because they need to be orthographic views. And so if I go turn off this ortho thing and I want to move, let's use the move command. We need to talk about how to select entities. I can grab these one at a time, but this is going to take me all day to collect all these. There's 4 different ways to select objects. If you click and let go and then click, you'll get a box and you'll get all of them. If you don't enclose all of them, you'll just get the ones that are completely enclosed. Here, all I'm going to get is that top line. If I come down here, I want to get all of those guys. Okay? Another option is to click. So that's top left, click and let go. Bottom right, click. You'll get that way. But they all have to be inside the box. if I click and let go at the bottom right, as long as I get any piece of that line in the box, it's going to get it. So now I've got all those vertical lines and the bottom horizontal line. And if I want to get all of them, I have to come up here. Now I got the last one. But depending if you go top left to bottom right or bottom right to top left, you'll get either everything that's inside the box, that's only inside the box, or any partial selection. The other thing you can do, instead of clicking and let go, if you click and hold, you get this kind of thing. And it's the same kind of thing. If you make your little window, you're only going to, if you start top left, you're only going to get stuff that's completely enclosed. If you click and hold on the bottom right and come around, it's the other way. So whether it's click and let go or click and hold, and you'll have to just practice that to get good at it. So I want to click and let go here. I want to click right there. So now I've got everything, I believe. And I want to hit this move command. I can hit the command and select the elements, or I can pre-select the elements and hit the command. In this case, I pre-selected the elements. I want to hit move, and I want to go from to. I've got my ortho. I need to turn on the ortho. So I want to go from here, and I'm just going to drag it up. See what's happening? It can only go vertical, and so I'm going to ooch it up a little bit. There we go. Now I'm going to move I'm going to move this view over this way. So I'm going to click and let go, click to get all of those. I'm going to hit move. I want to go from to. I want to go from here to here. And then now maybe I'll move them all down here in the corner a little bit further, because maybe I want to have an ISO view over here eventually. So I'm going to do the command first this time. I'm going to say move. Now I'm going to select the objects, because that's what the command line is telling me to do. I'm going to click and let go. I'm going to click right there. If I click right there, I'm going to miss that center line. So I got to get everything in the box. Now I want to go from to. Now I'm moving all of them, so I can move it willy-nilly now. And so let's turn off the ortho. Excuse me. Specify, so it found the objects. Hit enter to be done with that. Now it's saying from to. I want to click here, and I'll just make a little move like that. There we go. That looks pretty good. And maybe I'll do one more move up, and I want to turn the ortho back on wherever it went, and click and let go, click, right click, done, click, and then now it's moving straight up. That looks pretty good. Now let's do some more offsets. I got to offset this back edge 1.5 inches here down to here, and I need, I think that's it maybe. Now I got to do some trim commands. I'm going to select this edge to trim to, right click enter, and I want to trim, got to get this right. This guy, these guys need to trim back to there. And these guys here are going to, I need one more offset going the other direction. I need to go back and hit offset, and I need to go 0.5 inches from this edge to get that guy right there. Right click enter. Now I want to do another trim command. I want to trim these all back to themselves. Enter. That's what I want to trim to, and I just go boom, 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 boom. Right click enter. Is that correct? I think it is. That face goes down. Those are the two edges for the slot at the top. I need to redraw these lines here. That line needs to be up here. That edge needs to be up here. I deleted it because it's lined up with this edge here. Those are both over 1/2 inch. And so I could just offset these lines I've got. And so I could go to offset. That's over. That's 1/2. I need to go another 1/2. So I want to go here to here and here to here. So that edge there is this edge. This edge here is that edge. So that looks good. Now I need to draw my circle. I'm going to do, first I'll do a center line. I'm almost done here. This is looking beautiful. I want a line from the end point or the quadrant, either one. Quadrant of the circle or end point of the line. Either one of those lined up correctly horizontally. I want to send this perpendicular to that back edge. Right click enter. I want to push the grip. I'm going to right click and go to the midpoint. Control right click and go to that midpoint right there because that's where the hole stops. And then maybe I'll offset that at 0,0.125 and then make this bottom grip at 0, minus 0.125. Now I can do my center, my hidden line for the circle. I'll go line, I'll go quadrant, control right click perpendicular to here, right click enter. I could do another offset 0.75 and offset this line this way. Lots of different ways to do this. I want to select that guy, select that grip, send him perpendicular to that horizontal line right there where the hole stops. And I want to do the same thing here. Control right click perpendicular and go right here. Double middle mouse wheel will zoom extents. Let's go through the zoom commands. If I roll my mouse wheel, it will zoom in and out to wherever my mouse is located. If I have my mouse over here and I zoom in and out, it's going to zoom in where your mouse is. You're going to lose your way. If you lose your way, just double middle mouse wheel, double click your middle mouse wheel, and it'll zoom extents. What else? I think if you hold your middle mouse wheel down, you can pan. See the little hand come up. So middle mouse wheel, push the wheel down and hold it. We'll pan. Roll the wheel, will zoom in and out. And double middle mouse wheel, zoom extents. You've also got the navigation wheel over here. If you hit the home button, you can see we've been drawing in 2 dimensions, but this is a 3-dimensional modeler. So if I click home, it kicks me up, and you can see I've got an X and a Y and a Z. And so X into Y, Z goes up. And I can select these faces here and get a 3-dimensional views clicking on these faces. If I want to go back to where I was, I can just click on the top and it'll go square me back up to the coordinate system. All right. There's some other items in the lecture slides, but I think I've gone over all the options. Remember, right click is your friend. That gets you out of the commands, gets you to repeat the commands, those kind of thing. The other thing is to make sure you keep an eye on the command line. The command line will tell you what to do in the command you happen to be in. So save these to your, make an A06 folder to put this file in, and every assignment will have to be in its own folder so you'll be able to find these things moving forward. So that'll be all we'll do today. On the next assignment, we'll fill out the title block. I'll show you how to do that. And then we'll put dimensions on here and add our notes for our material and our finish. And then we'll have our first real fabrication part drawing that is done per ASME Y14.5M, which is the goal of the whole class. So good job on your first AutoCAD part drawing. And we will continue this on the next video from Summers Technical Services.